When I was in the White House working with President Clinton, anytime anybody proposed anything that was in the remotest sense tough on China, over issues of trade or human rights or everything else, there was a constant group of advisors, led in part by Sandy Berger, who went on to become the National Security Advisor, who opposed it and argued vehemently for a policy of being soft on China and not standing up to them in any way. And it later emerged that most of those people had business dealings with China, and that this was all part of their effort to basically keep their clients happy. And I think we're seeing the same thing now going on in Trump's plan to impose tariffs and the stiff opposition he's meeting with to that proposal on Capitol Hill, particularly from Republicans. But there's something more important in Trump's tariff proposal. It's more than just a slap on the wrist retaliatory tariff. It speaks to the need for a total change, which Trump seems to be embracing, in the way we treat trade disputes in the world. What we used to do is what Trump is doing now. Countries would be discriminatory toward the United States, and we would impose tariffs on them, and they might impose tariffs back, and we would then negotiate with our mutual interests in mind. But with the advent first of GATT, G-A-T-T, the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, and in the 1980s of the World Trade Organization, that process was suspended, and essentially a global agreement was set up not to impose tariffs, with a global enforcement mechanism dominated by the same people and the same types that dominate the United Nations. And no longer was it a matter of a bilateral negotiation between two countries, but a matter of global law enforcement by a World Trade Organization. And that enforcement has proven to be very anti-American, very biased in favor of China and many of the trade miscreants, the very major offenders. For example, they failed to crack down on currency manipulation by China, which is its major method of trade discrimination. So Trump is saying, the hell with that system. Let's go back to the national negotiation, our interest versus your interest, and let's negotiate that. And these tariffs are symptomatic of that and emblematic of the new approach, which was the old approach, which he wants to go back to, which would be effective. After all, the United States is a quarter of the globe's economy. And when we throw our weight around on something, we're going to be listened to, and we can have an impact on these bilateral discussions. The very purpose of the juridical world organization is really to disempower the United States. The other thing that's worth understanding is that Chinese threats to stop lending us money, in quotes, are absolutely absurd. China doesn't lend us money. China buys our treasury notes. It does so that it can spend yuan, its currency, buying dollar-denominated securities. Spend the Chinese money to buy the American money. That makes the American money more expensive and the Chinese money cheaper. Supply and demand. And the reason China does that is so its products and services are priced lower because they're denominated in dollars that are stronger. So the Chinese products cost less in the United States and American products cost more in China. And that transaction is fundamental to China's whole economy, its whole export-oriented economy. If it loses that edge, it falls apart as an economy and as a country. So Mitt Romney once told me, a trade war with China, bring it on. Thanks for watching.